Next step, guys, editing and deleting our post. So looks like we need an edit and delete button right here. So let's take care of that. In our resources, views, admin directory, categories, we'll go to the index.blade.php, and in the body, since we are looping through this, looks like we're gonna need a TD for our edit button. Okay, so let's set that up. Okay, so this is just gonna be an anchor tag with button styling. So a.button info, and I'll just add a button extra small class right there. Okay, so right here is gonna go to a route that we are gonna create. So we'll create this route, and the name of this route is gonna be category.edit. Okay, because it's going to take us to the edit page where we are going to be able to edit that category. Okay, so right here inside this, I'm just going to use a glyph icon. So glyph icon, the glyph icon pencil. Okay, so we need to create this in our web.php. So let's head over there, and it looks like we need a new get route. So I'll say route get, and right here we would say category/edit. But remember, we need to edit a particular category. So right here, we're going to be receiving a parameter, which is going to be the ID, to identify what particular category we're trying to edit. Okay, so right here in our uses, let's say use the categories controller and use the edit method. Okay, so the edit method is going to find that particular category, and it's going to return it to the form where we edit the category, and there we edit it, and it's going to now send that request to the update, which we're going to view later. So as is going to be the name, so we're just going to say category.edit as we named in our view. Okay, so looks like we need a parameter right here. If we head to our categories controller, you discover that our edit method is already set to receive such a request. So right here, so it's already receiving the ID parameter. So let's head over to our index.blade.php and make sure we are passing in the parameter right here. So the parameter that we're supposed to pass in is the ID, and it's going to be the ID of the current category in the loop. So let's say that category, and it's going to be ID. Okay, so we're passing in the ID of that category there as a parameter. The next thing is actually for our delete route. So I'll just duplicate this, and rather than button info, I'm going to give it a button danger. Okay, and this is not going to be pencil, this is going to be trash. Okay, so we're passing in the ID, but this is going to go to not edit, but delete. Okay, so when we want to delete a category. Okay, so let's head over to categories controller, or to our web.php file first, and we're going to create that route here. Okay, so we're also going to make it to be a get request, and it's going to go to the delete, and it's going to receive the ID, and it's going to go to the delete method. If we check in our categories controller, we already have that method defined. Okay, it's called destroy. So it's going to go to the destroy method that receives an ID and deletes the category with that ID. So we'll just call it delete. And in our categories controller, when we receive that ID here, we're going to delete it. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we have in our browser. If I refresh, category.edit not defined. So it means in my web.php, I must have made a mistake in the name. So this is re and not oi. Okay, so that should work right now. Let's refresh. And we have what we're expecting. Okay, so we have a pencil. Yeah, but that sucks. Okay, so I'm just gonna use an X. It's not really important. So right there, rather than all of this, I'll just put in an X. We're gonna be taking care of that later. So if I refresh, okay, so we have a delete button and we have an edit button. We can actually just use text. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so right there, rather than using glyph icons, we should probably just use font awesome because they are awesome, and glyph icons is just not awesome. Okay, so we have our edit and delete buttons. That looks better. Now let's go ahead and edit, and it takes us to that route, but since we are doing nothing, we got nothing. Okay, so what are we gonna do in our categories controller? In our edit method, we need to find that category. So let's find it, and we're gonna use the model, and we'll call the find method, and we pass in the ID right there. Okay, so once we find that category, we just need to return a view with that data. Okay, so return a view, and the name of that view is going to be edit right here. Okay, so let's just create that. So I'll say edit.blade.php. Okay, so notice how in my categories directory I have a create, edit, and an index. Okay, so for create, read, and update. Okay, so that looks nice. So I'll head over back to my controller and I'll say admin.categories.edit. Okay, but then I need to pass in the data I just found. So I'll say with, and this is gonna take in category, which is the name of the variable that I want to use to access in my view, and here we're gonna pass in the category we just found. Okay, so we need to make our view have something. Okay, so let's head over to our view, and this is gonna look like our create category. So I'll just copy this and paste it in our edit.blade, and we're gonna work with this. Okay, so you notice this is the third time we are actually implementing this for validation. So what we're gonna do is use an include. Okay, so we're gonna cut this into a partial, and we're gonna say include from a particular place. So what we're gonna do is create a different folder in our admin, and we're just gonna call this includes. Okay, so things we don't want to keep repeating, so we're just gonna say errors.blade.php right there. Okay, so I'll paste that in right here, and in our categories right here where we want to edit, we're just gonna say include from the admin dot includes directory dot the error dot blade. Okay, so the errors dot blade. And right now, since I have this include statement, it's just gonna take everything that is inside this error.blade and it's gonna insert it right here. So I can do exactly the same thing if I go to my create. Rather than writing all of these again, I can paste that here. And if I go to my post, I can come back and remove all of these and just paste that here. It's all gonna work exactly the same way. Okay, so that's some nice refactoring. Let's head over to editing our category. So we'll say update category, and we can pass in the name of the category here. So since we have access to the category, we can say update the category called this. The next thing is to change where this route is going to submit to, and we'll call that update. So it's going to be a post, obviously, and we have our CSR field there, and this is going to be name. But then right here, what we're going to do is pass in a value so that the user can actually see what he's trying to edit. So we'll say category name right here. Okay, so that looks great, and this is just gonna say update category. Okay, so everything looks normal, but looks like we're gonna have an error because we don't yet have the category.update route. So let's create that. So in our routes directory, in our web.php, we need a post route. So we'll say route post, and this is gonna go to /category/update, and we need to know the particular route that we are updating. Okay, so the particular category, that we are updating. So I'll say pass in an ID also here for identification purposes. Okay, so uses the categories controller and use the update method, which has already been defined for us as category.update. So let's view that method. So this method says I need an ID and I'm already getting the request. Okay, so let's head over to our edit.blade.php and pass in that ID. So we'll say pass in the ID right here, and this ID should be the category that we passed in, and we'll pass in the ID right here. Okay, so if I refresh that now, obviously we have a view and update category WordPress articles, and we have WordPress articles passed in. So if I head over to all my categories, we have this. If I check for CSS3 in depth, we have update that, and we can update it. So once we submit our form, what happens? Let's head over to our update method, and here's what we're gonna do. We'll just do exactly the same thing for our update. So we'll just say category is equal to category find the ID. So find where the ID is the one we just passed, and we'll just assign the name field to be equal to the request name field that we are receiving from our view, and we'll just need to save that so it's persisted in our database. Okay, so that looks great. So we'll just return a redirect to a particular route, and this route is going to be the categories route right here. Okay, so we'll just say return to the route called categories. Okay, so that looks great. We find the post, we change the name, and we save. So since the name is the only field, it's the only thing we gotta do. Okay, so everything should work normally. So rather than saying CSS3, I'm just gonna say CSS in detail. Okay, so I'll update that. We're redirected back, and that's updated. Okay, so we can change this, and rather than saying Laravel articles, we're just gonna say Laravel. Update that, everything changes. The same thing with WordPress, we're gonna remove the articles, update that, and it works. So last thing we gotta do, delete a category. Here's what we're gonna do. We just receive the ID in our destroy method, and we'll just find the category using the ID, and we're gonna delete it. So we'll say category delete. Okay, then we'll just return a redirect to a route called categories. Okay, so first we find it, since we are receiving it from our link right here in our index. So right here in our index, we are actually passing in the parameter into our route, which is the category the delete as we defined in our web.php. So here is the delete route right here. Okay, so it receives the category and it uses the destroy method, and this destroy method finds it, deletes it, and thus returns us back. So let's try this out. I'll refresh and I'll delete it and delete it. I can create a new category and I'll call Laravel, and I'll store the category. Everything is stored and redirected back. We should probably make that route redirect us back to the categories page. Okay, so once we store a route, don't return the user back, return the user to a route called categories. Okay, so I'll save that, I'll create another one, and I'll call this one Spark, and I'll store the category and return back, and everything seems to work. But wouldn't it be cool if we could have notifications that use our session to display messages of success to us? Let's go ahead and do that in the next video.